Welcome to the latest edition of A Closer Look. I'm Mark Shine. This is Mark Miller, and I've forgotten how many of these we've done because I can't count that high.
I think it's number 4.
Number 4?
I think so.
All right, we're back at it. Glad to have you with us. And Mark, we're thinking about adding a new section to the show because one thing you can do at WOSN and make us all happy, food.
Oh, yeah.
So we're looking at concession stand food. Now, I like Macomb hot chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
Last year we did the Indian Lake
ribeye sandwich.
Oh, those were outstanding. And then we got a new one this week we saw.
Oh, yeah. We were at USV, and I looked at the menu, and it was kind of a sloppy menu because they had sloppy joes, they had sloppy dogs, and they had sloppy nachos. And we took a look at the sloppy nachos. They were pretty sloppy, but you put meat sauce on it, I can eat about anything.
Right.
You know, so that was pretty good fare over there at USV.
And we're going to try to update that, even though our doctors probably were very happy with some of the cholesterol counts we'll get. We're going to try to update that as well. All right, Mark, let's go back and take a little bit of a look at games that we had from the previous week, and you're going to start with Coldwater Marion Local.
Well, it was the big one, you know, maybe throughout the state. Coldwater comes out of that thing against Marion Local 17-14. You look at the team stats, and they were almost dead even as far as yardage and first downs and punts and all that kind of stuff. Coldwater quarterback Dylan Toby had another great night, and this time throwing to wide receiver Neil Mullenkamp. He had 8 catches, 114 yards. That is a great combo that we're going to have to watch down through the years. The bad thing about it, and it really affected the Marion Local team up front especially, is the big guy that we highlighted preseason, John Dirksen, broke his leg in that game. That's not good. You don't want to see that happen to anybody, and it really affected Marion Local in a negative way.
Of course, one of those questions is when you get to the playoffs, you know, and you're 8-10 weeks down the road, will he come back? We'll see how severe that injury is. Let's hope. That'd be good for them and for Coach Dirksen. All right, I got Bath and Salina. This went to overtime. The Wildcats lost to the Salina Bulldogs 21-14. Big rushing game. Sullivan had 2 rushing touchdowns for the Wildcats, but the team only rushed for 113 yards, whereas Salina rushed for 286. Touchdown late by Schwederman, another rushing touchdown in overtime. Salina wins that one. They've given up just 21 points in 2 league games. Wow.
Let's look at Leipsic and Liberty-Benton. BVC matchup. Leipsic came out on top 35-28. You know, that game in the fourth quarter was 22-7 Leipsic. So LB came back, and they did it on the arm of Austin May, their quarterback. He had 3 touchdown runs, so he did it with his legs and the pass. He threw a touchdown pass, had a nice game even in a losing effort. Keeps Leipsic in the hunt, and Macomb is at Leipsic week 6. That's kind of the one you're looking at now for the BVC.
Big game coming up. And our final game, as we reviewed from a week ago, were Lima Senior High School and Springfield. Really nice matchup. One of those games, if you didn't care who won or lost, you just bought a ticket, walked in the door to watch a good football game. 35-28. Springfield, Danny Davis rushed for 280 on 34 carries. Spartans have had trouble stopping the run. We'll get to their future games here in just a moment. Jaden Walker, another couple of touchdown runs, plus a touchdown catch. Goal line pass, batted down in the end zone as the Spartan game comes to an end. Had a chance to tie, didn't go that way for them. Nice effort by the Spartans, but they come up a little bit short. And now, Mark, we're going to go through our stat stuffer guys from a week ago and some of our highlights there.
I think 34 carries, that's a stat stuffer. We're going to look at Jay Kaufman, quarterback from Ottawa-Glandorf. They beat Van Wert 42-0. Jay was 13 of 17, 404 yards, 4 touchdowns. He also ran 1, 5 touchdowns. That's a good day.
That's a really good day. Aaron Rydell and Jacob Youngpeter for the resurging Delphos St. John's Blue Jays. Rydell rushes for 3 touchdowns again. Also, Youngpeter, 162 yards rushing for a touchdown. Threw it for 102, 2 of them there, 3 touchdowns he accounted for as DSJ beats Minster 46-30.
Plummy Gardner, a quarterback from Perry. They lost to Montpelier 52-39, but Plummy had a really nice night, 20 of 34, 374 as far as yardage. 4 touchdown passes, also ran 1. 5 touchdowns must be the thing this week.
Must be the thing. If you're throwing the ball to Glover, just throw it up here, let the big fella go get it, man.
Glover had a nice night. That's another combo to watch.
There it is. And we're going to look at Chase Rose from USV. Now, they lost to Indian Lake, but what a game he had. Chase, 13 catches, 194 yards, 3 touchdowns. Marquise is good at hands, good at route runners I've seen this year.
He's 6'4". Now, here's a game that they're down early, and so they have to throw. He's the best receiver. They know they're throwing it to him, and he still catches 13. Yep. He made some diving catches, some leaping catches. He was the real deal that night. Very impressive.
Very impressive. Yeah.
Hey, and then we go to Drew Klein, another quarterback. Why do I get all the quarterbacks? Crestview, 42-0 over Wayne Trace. He had 146 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. 119 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. I had 3 quarterbacks, all of them accounted for 5 touchdowns. Those are big offensive nights.
Well, I like to look at offensive line play, and it bothers me when I hear these people say, well, these guys out here are called skill players. like those big fellas inside don't have any tools. In fact, they're just big people. We're going to look at the Macomb offensive line led by Matt Cherry. Matt's 250. The line average is 250. He goes 290. They paved their way for 300 rushing yards from Macomb, 237 yards rushing, 39 carries alone in the first half. Really nice effort by that offensive line, and we want to congratulate Matt Cherry and the offensive line from Macomb.
All starts out up front.
It really does. If you don't have those people that can play up front, you got a problem.
That's why I roomed with 3 linemen in college. I wasn't stupid. Mama didn't raise no dummy.
How many pizzas?
A lot.
A lot.
McDonald's. Big Macs.
How about our play of the week, Mark?
Play of the week at Indian Lake. We saw a play, and we've got it queued up here. We'll give you a look at it. Alex Jacobs is a quarterback for Indian Lake against USV. Now let's just take a look. They're down in there. They're already up. You can see 14-8. They're in the red zone. He looks like he's going to scramble right, reverses his field all the way back to the left. We're going to see it again in slow motion and show you some things that are going on that you probably didn't recognize, because if you're like me and a lot of people, you just watch the ball. A little play action. Starts to go left. The rusher forces him right. Now, if you look at it right there, you say, they're all going to the right. They're working for their buddy. He's going to reverse his field and go back the other way. Now, look at the lineman still working right here. Look at that guy. Going to get a block there. Look at the receiver down the field, still working. In the end zone, touchdown. That's a big play. That's great agility, great elusiveness. The lineman kept blocking. The receivers kept working. And that's when you get big plays. That was certainly a great play.
And none of those offensive linemen downfield, as you see so
often.
And
no holding and no clipping and no blocking in the back. Everybody did their part, all 11 guys.
And we saw Alex Jacobs. He was player of the year in their conference a year ago. He's a nice player.
He is a fine player that night. He played early, not much late, did his damage right away, big runs, big passes. He is a great player.
Indian Lake will try to defend their half of the CBC conference this week as we get to that. All right, Mark. We've been talking about plays of the week, but we've also been trying to focus on a bright spot of the week. This week we got a lot of pictures that came in, pictures that we really appreciate as members of FCA.
Well, you know, Andy Lynch, our area staff FCA guy, gave us these pictures. He's really proud of it because the students at all of these schools, mostly unprompted, they did it on their own. And it's not like a movement or anything, although it will become one if everybody starts doing it. Got together on the field, and you remember we showed you just a clip of Columbus Grove and PG in the opening game. After an overtime game, Reed Steckschulte got the team together on the field, and they prayed arm in arm. That kind of thing is going on all around our area. St. Mary's, Van Wert, USV, Indian Lake, Fort Recovery, Fort Loramie, several of the others. It's just a neat thing to see sportsmanship reign at the end of a game in these high school football fields.
Hey, Mark, I saw something this week. I talked to a young man who's a captain, and he said, you know what I'm going to do? When I go out for the captain's coin toss, I'm going to ask the captain on the other team, hey, can we get together when this game is over and pray? Yeah. And I like to see leadership like that. I hope more captains, more coaches allow their teams time to do it, as we did in some of the pictures we saw right there. It'd be a great show of sportsmanship and a great show of their faith.
You may not know it, but all the pros do it. Not the whole teams, the guys that want to. A lot of colleges do it, but that's after the broadcast. We don't see that stuff. And if you leave the stadium right away, you may not see the high school guys do it either, because it's after they meet with their coaches, it's out in the middle of the field, and it's a pretty neat thing.
It really is. Something we're very pleased to see here at WTLW WOSN, and the sportsmanship and the faith as well.
Yep.
Well, it's time for our question mark segment. And this week, Mark, our question is, why is the MAC football so good?
Well, for those of you that may not think they're so good, 30 state football championships. And that does not include the 6 that Versailles won before they became the MAC. So you and I talk about this stuff on the road all the time, and I thought it'd be kind of fun if we just throw out our ideas of why the MAC is so good. Yep. There's a lot of ideas and a lot of reasons, but these are Mark and Mark's ideas. I'm going to start off. I think they got excellent coaches. Now, part of that is they were able to attract them because they win. You know, you go to the MAC, you got a chance to win a state championship, but from top to bottom, we see things going on with those coaches. They're really, really good. What do you got?
Well, talking about coaches, a year and a half ago, I was at St. John's. I was there for a basketball game. I see Coach Schulte coming out of the weight room. It's January. So, Coach, are your guys working hard in the weight room? He said, I don't have to worry about that. My guys know if they don't work hard in the weight room in the offseason, they're going to get embarrassed on the field on Friday nights in the fall. That's so right. You've just got that, I know I have to work or I'm in trouble.
I think a lot of it has to do with where these schools are. They're in very close proximity to similar schools, small schools that like sports, that are cohesive in their own right, and that develops rivalries. I grew up in Northeast Ohio, big schools. We had one small division school. They either traveled a couple of hours to play somebody their size, or they got waxed by the big school down the road. No rivalry there. The MAC, they're 3, 4, 5, 8 miles from one another. They see each other at McDonald's. They work out with each other. They want to beat each other every Friday in the fall. And I think that kind of lends itself into the communities. You know, a lot of people say, I wouldn't want to live in a little town. There are a lot of advantages to living in a little town. First of all, you got some accountability. Everybody knows each other. You know, the coach kind of likes that. You know, he's going to know if his players are acting up. But the community support is huge. Look at the 50-50s. Look at the attendance. Right. You know, I think a lot of that, you know, those small communities really, there's not much else to do a lot of times, so they do sports. You know, there's not a lot of movement. Kids stay there generation after generation. You see the son, you see the grandson of an all-Ohio player, and he's still playing. They love their sports. They stay right there and play. That's a neat thing.
Throw one more at you. It's a work ethic community. You know, a lot of hardworking farm families, business families, factory worker type families, a lot of hardworking young people, and it just grows up in their family life and what they're expected to do.
The family unit is very strong. Values are important. Hard work is a way of life. You know, a lot of colleges will recruit players that fit their program. These kids are born to fit in these programs. I say it's hard to coach diversity. I'm not talking about racial diversity. I'm saying it's hard to coach kids that think differently, that act differently, that want to do different things. These kids are very cohesive in that they have a goal in mind, and that is, I want to be a high school football player, and I want to win a state championship like those guys do right now. Pretty cool.
Got
the
another
MAC
one?
is awesome.
We good?
I'm good.
We're good. All right. Well, we've added another feature. Last week we started this one. That is kind of a where are they now thing, and you've got our where are they now this week.
Hey, I looked up Mike Bath. Now, for some of you might remember Mike Bath was a great quarterback at Salina High School in the 90s. He was all-state Division II quarterback in 94 and 95. His team went to the playoffs in 94, was a state semifinalist in 95. And then he went to Miami, the Red Hawks. That hurts me a little bit as a Falcon. But he went down there and he was just as good. In 98, his team was 10-1, won the MAC East Championship. As a senior, he was a co-MVP, and he left Miami as a career record holder in yardage, passing, and touchdown passes. Now, those were broken later on by a couple of guys that weren't bad. Ben Roethlisberger, for one, and then Zach Dysert, who Mike coached. He went back to Miami and was a coach and coached Zach Dysert from Ada, who still holds all of those career records. But then he started his coaching career. Miami, went to Ashland as an offensive coordinator, back to Miami, and even was an interim head coach there when that head coach got let go. And now he's at Wyoming, coaching running backs. He has been in coaching for 13 years. He is probably a lifer, a great football player at the high school and college level, and now a great coach. His family, wife Tara, 3 kids, Colton, Savannah, Case, and that's the update on one of a really, really good players from our area, Mike Bath.
All right, thank you for that, Mark. Let's go into our preview, upcoming games, what's going to happen this week. We'll start with Lima Senior and Whitmer as they begin track play. Whitmer is 2-1. Wins over Walsh Jesuit and Perrysburg, stopping a 29-game winning streak by Perrysburg. They have a loss to Detroit Central Catholic in there as well. They have 2 great running backs, Malik Moore and Larry Patterson. They really like to run the football. They're very run-oriented. They have a freshman quarterback. Ooh. Spartans need to have to tighten up things defensively. They struggled defensively, particularly against the run. Big challenge for the Spartans as they start 3 consecutive track games on the road.
Grove, 2-1 at Crestview, 3-0. Crestview is winning their games by an average of 23 points. Grove's coming off a very disappointing loss to a very, very good Patrick Henry team. And Crestview's coming off that huge win against their rival, Wayne Trace. This will go a long way to figuring out who's going to be at the top of that Northwest Conference.
And for Fort Recovery and Coldwater, back-to-back big games for the Coldwater Cavaliers. D5 state champion against D7 state champion from a year ago. Both teams very quarterback-oriented. Of course, they have a lot of the talented players as well. Caleb Martin for Fort Recovery, Dylan Toby for Coldwater. I get to go to that game, Mr. Miller, and I'm looking forward to that one. Yeah. Big game in the MAC again this week.
In the WBL, Salina is at OG. Both are 2-0 in the WBL right now. Salina, 2 very close wins. They score with a 1:55 left to beat Elida, and they beat Bath in overtime. OG has given up 26 points on defense. That's the best in the WBL. This should be a good game.
Should be a really good football game. And then we'll put our broadcast schedule for the week up on the screen as well. Obviously, the Fort Recovery Coldwater game that we talked about. You have Van Buren and Liberty-Benton.
Yep.
That's a good matchup.
Should be fun in the BVC, yeah.
Eagles and the Black Knights. Wapak and Elida will match up. Elida's been scoring points. Wapak just keeps finding ways to win.
That's right. Somebody's got to upset that apple cart, but Wapak's really good.
And then Spencerville and Ada. Ada coming off a big win last week over Lima Central Catholic. Spencerville Bearcats, they've been on a roll for a couple, 3 years now under Coach John Zerby. Another big matchup in the NWC. That takes us through another closer look. Mark and I'll be back next week. You've been watching high school football on WOSN.